Welcome back to Crimson Tide Today. I'm your host, Zack Aitken. Alabama football is officially into fall camp, and pretty soon we're going to be getting a much better idea of what this Crimson Tide offense is going to be looking like when the season kicks off. So there's still some major competitions that we have to have decided. I mean, who's going to win the quarterback battle? Which running backs are going to separate themselves? Who's going to emerge in a talented wide receiver room? And maybe most importantly, can Alabama find the right combination along the offensive line that has plenty to prove? Today, we're going to be breaking down my projected starting offense for the Crimson Tide in 2026, position by position, and we're going to look at some of the players who could be pushing for playing time behind them. If you're an Alabama fan, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel and let me know your projected starting offense down in the comments. But all right, let's go ahead and get into it. So, like I said earlier, we're going to take a deeper look at Alabama's projected starting offense for the 2026 season. And when you look at this depth chart I created, there's plenty of talent for sure, but there's also plenty of uncertainty. You've got a quarterback battle that still needs to be settled, a running back room with several options, a talented group of wide receivers, and an offensive line that could be looking very different from the group Alabama put on the field last season. So let's go ahead and deep dive and look position by position and break down what the offense is going to look like. And we're going to have to start with the trigger man. We're going to start with the guy that makes it all go. Let's talk about quarterbacks. So for this year, I'm projecting Keelan Russell to eventually win the starting job over Austin Mack in fall camp. Russell is a redshirt freshman at about 6'3" and 201 pounds, and everyone knows about this guy's talent. He was one of the top quarterback prospects in the country coming out of high school, and his combination of arm talent, athleticism, and playmaking ability, it should give Alabama a dynamic option at quarterback. But I think his running ability is really what's going to separate him from the competition, especially if the offensive line is going to be shaky in pass protection. But this competition, it's not over. Austin Mack has a major advantage when it comes to experience. He's been in Kalen DeBoer's system for years, dating back to their time together at Washington, and that familiarity, it does matter to an extent. DeBoer, he's talked about what he wants to see from a quarterback, and that's poise. Who can handle the pressure? Who can command the offense and have the poise DeBoer is looking for? Who can make the correct decision when things break down? I mean, those are going to be important factors to deciding this competition. So while I have Keelan Russell listed as the starter, Austin Mack definitely has a chance to win this job. Let's move on to the skill players and starting with running back. I have Daniel Hill as my projected starter. Hill is listed at 6'1" and 236 pounds, and that size immediately stands out. He gives Alabama a physical presence in the backfield, and he has his opportunity to establish himself as the lead back. And I think it's worth noting that Hill reportedly lost around 10 pounds in the offseason, so he should be a little lighter. Probably will help with his durability as well to be able to stay on the field and have more carries during the year. But I don't think this is going to be a competition where Hill gets every meaningful carry. I mean, there's just too much talent behind him. AK Deer, he's a guy that's going to be pushing for a significant role this year, in my opinion. And EJ Crowell, he's another young running back that has a ton of upside. And then you still have guys like Kevin Riley and Trayshawn Brown competing for carries. So expect Alabama to use multiple backs. Hill, he may be the guy who leads the room, but the competition for that second spot between Deer, Crowell, and the rest of the group, it's going to be worth watching. Moving on, I want to talk about some guys that are going to be catching the ball. Let's talk about some more skill positions. And at wide receiver, we got Ryan Coleman Williams as the big headliner. Coleman Williams, he's a junior who stands 6 foot even and 182 pounds, and I think he has a chance to become a clear number one receiver in this offense. Obviously, the talent has never been the question about Ryan Coleman Williams. Alabama needs consistency and production from him on a weekly basis. And I think moving Williams back to the outside this year is going to be the best move. We saw him a lot in the slot last year. And I just think for the team and for himself, it's going to give him the chance to work in more one-on-one opportunities out on the outside against cornerbacks. And I just didn't really like the idea of him in the slot. I'm not saying he gets trigger happy or gun shy when he goes across the middle, but if you look back at his freshman year, he had a lot of his highlight reels and his big explosive plays when he was out on the perimeter. Next to Coleman Williams in the slot, I have Lazier Brooks. Brooks, he gives Alabama a different type of weapon than Ryan Coleman Williams. He's listed 5'9" and 193 pounds, and I really like what he can provide from the slot. He's quick, he's difficult to handle in space, and he gives the quarterback a target who can create yards after the catch, that precious yak yardage that every offense wants. He showed that he has the toughness to make the necessary plays last year when going across the middle of the field. And then when we get to the third receiver spot, I'm going to throw a little curveball. For this projection, I'm going to go with true freshman Cedarian Morgan. Morgan, he's already an impressive guy when he's coming off the bus. I mean, he's listed at 6'4" and 223 pounds as a true freshman getting into college football. I mean, that's an impressive frame for a freshman receiver, and he's going to be the big guy compared to Coleman Williams and Brooks. And when you never want to put too much pressure on a first year player, but Morgan, he has all the physical tools to make it very difficult for Alabama to keep him off the field for this upcoming season. And the receiver rotation, it's not going to stop with those three. Rico Scott is another player who's going to be in the who's been in the program for a few years now, and he's going to have all the opportunities to earn snaps. Derek Meadows, he's a big-time elite athlete that has all the physical tools that this coaching staff loves. And by all accounts, Tyler Henderson, he's been making strides ever since he arrived in Tuscaloosa from junior college. And also, once Noah Rogers is healthy, this is going to change the equation as well. So there's a lot of options here. Coleman Williams and Brooks appear to give Alabama a strong foundation, but that third receiver spot and the rotation behind them, it's going to continue to evolve. But I love this versatility that Coleman Williams, Brooks, and Morgan could potentially bring to this lineup. At tight end, I'm going to be projecting Caleb Edwards. Edwards is 6'6" and 268 pounds. So once again, we're talking a big, massive target, especially that could be utilized in the red zone for the new quarterback. And this is a position I think that could get very interesting because we know how Kalen DeBoer loves to feature tight ends. Alabama doesn't necessarily need Edwards to catch eight passes every Saturday, but if he can become a reliable blocker, work the middle of the field, and become a weapon in the red zone, he can definitely play an important role. And Alabama also has other options at tight end as well. Josh Ford is another name I expect to be heavily involved, especially when Alabama goes into 12 personnel and 22 personnel. Ford, he was brought in to take some of the inline blocking duties off of Edwards' plate so Edwards can focus on what he does best, being a vertical threat and being a red zone target. And with DeBoer's offense, there's room for more than one tight end to see meaningful snaps. So that gives you the quarterback in all the skill positions, but let's get to the group where I think Alabama is going to be determined on how good this offense can actually be, and that's with the offensive line. I mean, we can talk all day about Keelan Russell or Austin Mack. We can talk about Ryan Coleman Williams. We can talk about Daniel Hill till we're blue in the face, but we can talk about all of these skill players, but none of it's going to matter if Alabama can't consistently block people up front. And this offensive line looks very different than what we saw a year ago. From left to right, my projected starters are Jackson Lloyd at left tackle, Will Sanders at left guard, Rayson Delgado at center, Michael Carroll sliding in at right guard, and Javen James at right tackle. And here's one number that immediately jumps out when I was putting this together. Alabama's projected offensive line, it projects to be around 314 pounds per man. Last season, Alabama's offensive line averaged around 328 pounds per man. That's a difference of 14 pounds per player, and that's very significant. For years, when we thought about Alabama offensive linemen, we thought about enormous human beings, massive tackles, big-time guards, but guys who look like they belonged in an NFL roster before they even left Tuscaloosa. But bigger doesn't automatically mean better. Last season was a pretty good example of that. We need Alabama to run the ball more consistently. We need the pass protection to have improvement, and the communication above all needs to improve as well. This is a group that needs just to play together, be five guys coming together and playing as one. If Alabama gets a little lighter, I feel like it becomes more athletic up front, and I'm perfectly fine with that trade-off. But let's look at left tackle Jackson Lloyd to start off. Lloyd, he's only a redshirt freshman, so there is going to be a learning curve. We talked about that during his player preview, but physically, there's a lot to work with. I mean, he's 6'7" and he's listed at 317 pounds. That's a good frame to work with. It's a big frame, but compared to some of the Alabama tackles that we've seen in the past, he looks a little leaner and potentially a little bit more athletic than a Caden Proctor. The challenge is going to be consistency. Playing left tackle in the SEC as a young player, it's never easy. I mean, you're going to see all the elite pass rushers almost every single week. So if Lloyd wins that job, Alabama's going to be putting a lot of responsibility on the young player. But next to him, I have Will Sanders at left guard, and he's measured at 6'3" and 315 pounds. And I think Sanders could be a really important piece for this offensive line because Alabama needs stability on the interior. I mean, you don't need every offensive lineman to become an All-American, but sometimes you just need guys who can put their head down and consistently do their job. Don't give up immediate pressure. Don't miss assignments. Don't commit penalties that kill drives. And create movement in the running game. And then we go over to center where I have Racing Delgado. This may be one of the most important additions Alabama made in the transfer portal. Delgado, he's a senior at 6'3" and 301 pounds, and he is the lightest player in this projected starting five, but I'm less concerned about his weight and more interested in what he can provide from an experience and communication standpoint. Center, they're the quarterback of the offensive line. They're making calls, they're identifying fronts, they're communicating with the guards. And when Alabama potentially has a redshirt freshman quarterback behind you, having an experienced center, it becomes even more important. And that's why I think Delgado could have a major impact on this offense. And then at right guard, I have Michael Carroll. Carroll is a 6'6", 318-pound sophomore. He's a younger player, but he brings excellent size and obviously a ton of upside. And with the valuable experience he gained last year, I'd bet that the coaching staff is going to be expecting him to be a leader on this unit. And then at right tackle, I have senior Javen James. James is listed at 6'5" and 318 pounds. And we've talked about how James is a little leaner than some of the offensive tackles that Alabama has traditionally had. But then again, that could fit to where this offensive line is trying to become. More athletic, better in space, better at handling movement up front, and just more consistent in pass protection. Now, these guys, they are my 5 projected starters, but by all means, that doesn't mean these jobs are locked up. The offensive line competition is going to have to be continuing throughout fall camp. Alabama added multiple offensive linemen through the transfer portal, and there's going to be players that are pushing this projected starting 5. Depth is especially important because it's rare to make it through an entire SEC season with the same 5 offensive linemen starting every single game. Somebody's going to get banged up. Somebody's going to struggle, and somewhere else, someone is going to develop faster than expected. So Alabama needs 7 or 8 offensive linemen that it trusts, not just 5. And I think that's the real story of this entire offense. I mean, the talent, it's everywhere. But there's also going to be battles everywhere. Russell versus Mack at quarterback. Daniel Hill, he's going to be trying to establish himself in a deep running back room. And Sadarian Morgan or others, they're going to be trying to win that third receiver spot. Multiple tight ends are going to be fighting for snaps. And an offensive line, they're trying to find the best 5-man combination to put on the field on Saturday. So if I'm ranking the biggest questions, though, the number one is still the offensive line because if this group gets better, everything else around them becomes easier. The running backs are going to have lanes. The quarterback's going to have time. DeBoer, he's going to be able to open up the playbook. The receivers, they're going to have time to work downfield as well. And if Alabama can consistently be ahead of the chains instead of being behind them, facing second and long and third and long, that's just going to make everything easier for the offense. The average size of the offensive line maybe dropped around 15 pounds, but Alabama doesn't need to win a weigh-in. They need to win at the line of scrimmage. And if this slightly smaller but more athletic offensive line can do that, Alabama's offense could be taking a big step forward in 2026 because the skill position talent is there, the quarterback talent is there, and the depth is going to be there as well. Now, it's going to be coming down to finding the right combination and make sure the 5 guys up front give everyone else an opportunity to show what they can do. And if Alabama gets that figured out, this could become a very dangerous offense by the time SEC play gets underway. So, guys, that's my projected Alabama offense heading into the 2026 season. But now I want to hear from you. What would you change in this lineup? Who do you think wins the quarterback battle? And which player that we talked about are going to be some surprises as the season gets underway? Let me know down in the comments. And if you enjoyed the show, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of the Crimson Tide coverage that we have throughout fall camp and into the season. Thanks for watching, and as always, roll Tide.